Squid Game Season 2 is the most popular TV series on streaming right now, and it actually broke Netflix's record and became TV's biggest debut ever, with 68 million viewers tuning into it in its first 3 days. With this season being a bit more of a controversial one, and many people not quite thinking that it made the same impact as the first season did, and the characters not quite leaving their mark either. Amongst those very characters, there was one that actually stood out to me. This was the soldier that was known as the Masked Officer. He didn't feature in the first season of the show, and within Season 2 there was a lot of mystery around his identity. Something that I was left wondering about a lot when the credits rolled in the final episode. So with that, I thought I'd take a deep dive into the character and share all that there possibly could be that's out there to know about him. So let's get into it. Here is Squid Game Season 2, The Masked Officer Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Within Squid Game, we know that there are different levels of soldiers that we've seen within the show. The soldiers are at the core of the games because if they're not there, then there's nobody to enforce the rules and eliminate the players if they lose in the rounds. The different shapes on the masks symbolize different ranks. For example, the soldiers that have a circle-shaped mask are considered to be of the bottom rank, the lowest in the pecking order. They're essentially in charge of carrying out the most basic of needs within the games, like cleaning, moving dead bodies, and feeding the players. The circle soldiers aren't even allowed to speak unless they're spoken to by somebody of a higher rank. The next rank is the triangle masked soldiers, the rank we saw Kang No-Eul, soldier number 11 in. They make sure that the rules of the games are followed and have the power to be able to eliminate players if they lose within their round. These triangle masked soldiers aren't decision makers, nor are they that high in the ranking order, but they do have the ability to enforce the rules, something which the circle masked soldiers don't. The final rank of soldier on its most basic level is the square masked individuals, the same shape that's on the masked officer's mask, showing that it's a shape that means authority. When a soldier has a square mask, it means that they watch over the soldiers of lower ranks and are able to give orders to them. They're also allowed to deal directly with the frontman and act as the message keepers of informing the rest of the soldiers what's going on and what the upcoming plans are. So where does that leave the masked officer? Well, the fact that he has a square on his mask shows that he has authority, as that's naturally the symbol of the highest rank within Squid Game. A player and even another soldier would walk past him, see the square, and instantly know that he's above them in terms of power and position. Then take into consideration that he wears a black suit instead of a pink one, the very colour that the frontman wears on his cloak, the most senior of them all. That also puts him on another level when it comes to power and authority. I believe the masked officer is almost like the deputy to the frontman, the second in command and the person that would take over if anything were to happen. Exactly like how we saw the masked officer running the games when In-Ho went in as a participant whilst undercover in Season 2. This frame here in the final episode kinda said it all too when it came to the pecking order. The final thing that we saw in the season was the frontman coming back in his masked form and killing Jung-bae in front of Gi-hun. The framing of the shot had the frontman standing front and center, and then just over his shoulder was the masked officer, almost supporting the very fact that he was a deputy to the main man himself. Something which also supports the second-in-command element was that he was the very person that was in charge of ordering the army of soldiers during the uprising and rebellion that the players were participating in, and he ordered them to fight back. He also has eyes and ears across every corner of the island during the games, and he watches from afar as the contestants are eliminated, safely in the walls of the control room, something which not all soldiers get the luxury of doing. When it comes to other duties that the masked officer seemed to be in charge of outside of overseeing the games, the organ harvesting side story and operation that got more of a focus in this season of the show was something that he was heading up and was making sure was running efficiently. He was the person that was notified by other soldiers in the games when Kang No-Eul was preventing players from going into the harvesting room alive and eliminating them because their parts were more valuable that way. Something which was causing friction between her and him. Whilst she did show him an element of respect when he was speaking with her, she didn't show him the most amount of respect that she possibly could because she didn't apologize for her actions, and she also said that she wasn't going to stop making sure that the people were killed. He asked her if she was worried that the boss would find out what they were doing, so I wonder just how across the organ harvesting operation the frontman is, and if the masked officer is up to something sinister. We know that the frontman has morals, to a certain degree when it comes to the equality level of players in the game. So the fact that they're being kept alive and tortured for their organs, it could be something that the frontman doesn't know about. I could see a world where the masked officer could grow hungry for even more power than what he currently has, especially after taking over from the frontman for a short while. If he's only one level away from the top, what's to say that there's nothing to stop him from trying to claim that power and become the frontman himself? That way he'd have nobody to worry about on top of him. Often, people that are second in command, when they're so close to the power that they've always dreamed of, they betray the people that they're closest to. And I feel that with In-Ho going into the games and taking his eye off the ball, that's something we could see from this masked officer. One thing that we know about the masked officer for certain is that he's been within the games for several years, 7 years to be precise. We found this out when he had his conversation with Kang No-Eul in episode 4 of the show. During this conversation, he said to her that he laid eyes upon her several years ago when she was in hospital after crossing the demarcation line from the north of the country to the south, and he was impressed with the way that she fended off the troops that were after her with a single rifle, showing that he was almost acting like a recruiter of some kind when it came to the soldiers of the games. He also promised Kang No-Eul that if she did anything that he asked whilst working for him, then he'd assist her in finding her daughter in the north. The very thing that she wanted more than anything. So he's clearly a man of power despite not being at the top, and he has contacts that he can tap into outside of the games to make a task that's extremely difficult and has become No-Eul's life's work become something of ease. Outside of that, and also his responsibilities, we know that he can find his job stressful, as we saw on several occasions where he looked disheveled and like he needed a break, seeking solace at the bottom of a glass of whiskey or in his cigarette. With regards to the officer's life outside of the games, that's something that we know nothing about at all. We don't know if he was once a participant in the games, just like what In-Ho was in 2015, and we don't know if he's doing this for a wider purpose or reason like Kang No-Eul is. I predict he was once a soldier and he's merely worked his way up the ranks in order to get to the position that he's in, and he's not going to stop until he's right at the top and where the frontman is, even if that includes betrayal. The masked officer is somebody that we didn't learn loads about in the most recent season of the show, however there was a lot of importance placed around him. So I feel we're going to be seeing more of the character in the next season of the show, his connection to No-Eul, maybe him conspiring to go against the frontman, and also what his role in the game specifically is. He's an interesting character, but one that I definitely want to learn more about because I feel he's going to have a much larger role when it comes to the games being on the cusp of getting dismantled, and his own personal connection to trying to keep them up and running. So, there you have it, the masked officer in Squid Game Season 2 explained. If you want to see a full breakdown of Squid Game Season 2, then click on the card in the top corner. Or alternatively, if you want to see every new game being explained, a breakdown of the character Kang No-Eul, and even theories on Season 3, then head over to the channel. Do you think this character will have more importance in Season 3? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.